Hi guys, welcome to the I Love Amy review. So I recently finished reading I Love Amy, and as part of reviewing everything in video format, there's going to be an I Love Amy review. But this is not going to be a complete review because I've written a more technical review talking about color symbolism and relationships in a separate written review. So if you want to see that, I'll have it linked in the description. But this will talk about some of the stuff that I didn't talk about or write about in that review, so check that out after you watch this video. But I would like to say that this video will include spoilers, so if you have not seen the series yet, make sure to read it first before you come and watch it, because you'll miss out on a lot, and I really don't want to spoil this series for you because I'm putting it out here that I Love Amy is probably my favorite Yuri Girls Love series that I've ever read, and that is in pretty high regard, so I would really recommend that you read the series before you watch this video, and let's get started. So, I Love Amy is a slightly unconventional series in its setting, even though it's quite a simple series about basically talking about girls' love and high school relationships. But unlike what you would expect it to be set in, it's actually set in America, which brings out a lot of thematic things that I don't talk about too much, but when you read it, you kind of understand it. But I'm not going to talk about the thematics in this video. In fact, there's only 3 things that I really want to cover in this review, and that is expectations versus reality, naturality, and simplicity. And these are 3 of the things which I think really brought I Love Amy to a higher level compared to a lot of other series that I've read before. So, going into the first point of expectation versus reality. When you hear the name of the series, I Love Amy, I think everyone has a sort of idea in your mind as to why it is. For me, I Love Amy expected me to see Amy in the end having a relationship and the story itself working towards that. But upon starting to read the series, it really doesn't feel that way, because when you first read the series, the first chapter starts you off with BIBI, as well as her trying to pursue Peter. And then Amy comes in later on as a sort of friend of Peter, and you don't really see the relationship with Amy getting closer to anyone during most of the time. Like, it's very subtle, like friendship stuff, but with the way that the series is worded, you expect some sort of romantic things to start blossoming. But at the same time, you don't really see it happening. And to me, that really gave a lot of motivation to keep reading, because I keep having this burning question as to, so how is it really going to end up being? And that is one of the things. I don't know if it was purposeful that why the title was named this way, but it is one of the things that really kept me thinking after I finished reading the series myself, which is a very interesting thing to see and kind of shows the importance of how you name series. And besides that, I think one of the next important things I want to talk about is probably one of the most pivotal scenes in the series, and that is the confession scene where BIBI finally realizes that she likes Amy. I think it's at that kind of point, when you see that scene, you kind of see all the stuff that has built up beforehand, and you kind of see why you would expect that. I think everyone, after reading up to that point, would kind of expect that to happen. But the fact is that while you expect Amy to maybe at that point really finally accept that confession, seeing her reject it and like the lightness of that whole scene kind of really shocked me, in a sense that I was kind of expecting things to play out slightly differently there. And then I realized that maybe it wasn't so unexpected after all, after really thinking about it even harder. But the fact is that on first read, you kind of have an idea of what is supposed to be happening. Yet at the same time, the story brings you on a ride around, really tricking you into believing something when it's not really going to happen. And I think that plays around with the audience emotions really well, and that is one of the few things that I really enjoyed. So going into the second point of naturality. So I'll bring back the confession scene where BIBI confessed to Amy. And the thing is, I want to bring back this scene because when you think back about a lot of the scenes that happened beforehand, it kind of really makes sense how everything got to that point. You see the amount of time that BIBI spends with Amy, and you see how BIBI acts towards her compared to everyone else. It's actually quite natural to see like this kind of relationship would suddenly happen. But at the same time, there was a very important scene that really showed why this entire rejection happened, and that was when they had that trial date at the beach. If you remember, there is a scene where BIBI was going onto Amy for a kiss, and it was right at that moment where Amy rejected that. It looked as if they were going to do it, but at the same time they stopped. And then it really makes you think, because after that a lot of the backstory of Amy really comes out, and everything really falls into place when that confession scene happens and BIBI gets rejected, because everything, you've been given all the pieces, and really when you see that scene, it really clicks. Everything that happens before happens after. It all makes sense after you get all the information. And I think that's a difficult thing to do, because sometimes there are a lot of things happen in series, and sometimes too many things happen that you start forgetting some of the things that happened in the past. But in I Love Amy, everything so naturally flows and everything is so vivid. All the important scenes are so vivid that in the end everything actually links up very naturally, so that everything that happens feels like it's correct. Another thing that is done very well and very naturally is the relationships that happen in the series and how each character interacts with each other. The thing is that I think at the start, the characters were written out very clearly. You kind of know what each character would do in a certain situation. As you know, Amy is just the kind of shy Asian kid who really doesn't get well with people. Camila is like a tsundere who can't be true with her feelings, and BIBI is the kind of person who acts purely based on instinct instead of too much logic, even though she's really smart. The thing is, while you know how each of them are going to act, the relationships that happen are very complex but also make a lot of sense. You kind of know that the way the characters would interact would happen that way because of their character. You know that Camila just doesn't get well with people. She wants to get along with Amy, but because of an old incident they can't. BIBI and Amy are just in a sort of weird relationship because they are only together because of that one reason that Amy is trying to help BIBI get closer, and BIBI is just kind of using Amy for the most part without really understanding that she's getting closer. And Amy is just kind of there, not understanding her position in this and trying to figure herself out, but truthfully just thinking about, because she's been locked in the past for so long, she kind of doesn't really care about all that's happening. And it really just shows that the naturality of how relationships are supposed to be in real life. It's not simple to go and solve relationships, and each of them have their own problems with their relationships with each other and how love blossoms as well. It's like how BIBI and Amy's relationship just suddenly happened when BIBI finally realized that she all along has just been more interested in Amy than Peter. And that's why I really think the series really does relationships really well. I think everything is kind of as expected, but also shows the complexity of how real relationships should really be. And this brings me to the final point of simplicity. I think I talked quite a lot about it while talking about naturality, but I'm going to talk about it a bit more. So when I talk about simplicity, I'm not talking about how the characters or the plot is very one-dimensional. I think it's easy to misunderstand that what I'm thinking is that, but what I really mean by simplicity is that it's not convoluted and confusing. So I would like to quote the character description page on Analyst for Amy. So if you check the description page yourself, you can go and check it out. Her pure description that's written on this page, without any change, is a student with a timid personality. A single line that kind of sums up everything you need to know about Amy. I don't know about the other characters, I didn't really check, but the point is that I think every character you can really sum up into one word. It's like how I said BIBI is a yandere character who acts purely on instinct more than logic, and Camila is just a tsundere who can't be true with herself. I think those are the essences of those characters that really can be boiled down to. And so with that in mind, it really makes the characters very easy to understand because you don't need to think too much about them. And the way they have acted from young all the way up till now has really been the same. You kind of know exactly how they're going to act, And that makes the series a lot more natural because you don't need to think about all complicated stuff that's happening. There are no exceptions to their personality. They are fixed as it is. And that makes it a lot simpler to understand. And this also includes the plot. Because if you've read some other like manhwa series, people like to add in a lot of like potential plot points or like foreshadowing beforehand. But the thing is, sometimes it's either not clear or you have too much of it. And it gets very confusing because suddenly when you have the payoff coming in, you can't forget all the things that happened in the past. But with how short I Love Amy is and how memorable a lot of the scenes are, everything kind of falls into place when you finally see the payoff. It's not a complicated series for people to understand. The characters are not complicated while being lovable at the same time. And the simplicity and naturality of the series complement each other to kind of bring out more in the series. And all these 3 points together to me, are what a lot of series might not have, and is what makes I Love Amy a series that really brings it up to the level that I put it on right now. And that's why for my rating for I Love Amy, I gave it a 10 out of 10, because to me, I Love Amy really is just a brilliant series which makes use of a lot of small and simple ideas, yet manages to elevate the series to such a high level. So if you enjoyed this review, make sure to subscribe and like the video because it helps a lot. I might not be uploading reviews that often, but if you want, push the notification button because you'll be reminded whenever a video comes out. And I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.